What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mindset Mogul podcast. Holy shit, that was the most in sync we have ever been for the What's Up, Everybody, because as you notice, if you are watching on video, today is our first in-person podcast together. This is the first time seeing Brad in person since we decided to launch the pod, and super excited about it. Super excited to spend the next couple days together. Working hard, getting stuff done, planning out stuff for you guys and the Mindset Mogul community. This is awesome. What's up, Brad? How are you, bro? How was your flight? How you doing? And what are you feeling grateful for today? What's going on?
The flight in was smooth. Josh and I talked about this, but we are big sleepers on flights. So it's basically time travel. Get on the flight, takes off, fall asleep, wake up, you're there. I'm at Josh's house, and now we're doing this podcast. And so the gratitude this week is pretty easy, as I'm grateful to be here with Josh, grateful to spend time in person, improving our mindsets. I think the next couple of days, like I'm in Chicago for a week with Josh, and there's no better way to kick off that week than thinking about mindset, thinking about this pod. And I think we're going to do a workout after this. Like, life is good right now.
Feeling good. I agree. I'm grateful that you're here. Grateful to be spending time with you. We're actually going to be talking about gratitude today on the episode. And, just before we were even talking, one of the other things that I mentioned to you is every morning I'm just very grateful for having the mindset to get out and go take care of stuff that day. So not just being grateful for, specific things in my life, but also just being grateful for having the mindset in general. And that's something a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to read the question from today. It's from Aaron. I just want to say before we even jump in, if you find value from today's episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you listen to. Leave a comment. If you have a question that you want answered, you can comment it on the YouTube channel or send it into support@mindsetmogul.com. And we would really appreciate that. We'd love to engage with you. So without further ado, we have a question today from Aaron. It says, "Hi guys, I am big on practicing gratitude every day and have been for months now. However, I still find myself feeling unhappy a lot of the time. Any thoughts on this?" So thank you so much for your question, Aaron. Really, really appreciate you reaching out to us. And we do have some thoughts on this, as mentioned when we first jumped in. Brad, you wanna jump in and start this off?
Yeah, so Josh and I chatted a bit before this, though honestly most of these episodes we're going off the cuff after just based on, I think, deep discussions that we have and studying we do on the topic in general. But the thing that we did touch on a bit was defining the difference between happiness and gratitude and making sure that there is a distinction between the two, and that recognizing having gratitude does not necessarily mean that you are happy. And that is okay, and you should draw a distinction between the two. Now, I would say feeling happy is oftentimes a side effect of regularly practicing gratitude, but the two are not the same thing. And so when we think about defining gratitude, that is feeling grateful for something. It's recognizing and having respect that your situation could be worse. That's how I think about gratitude. And ultimately, what that provides you with is an in-the-moment sense of fulfillment for being where you are. It's a sense of completeness. It should fill a hole for recognizing that you're just living and existing is a gift that you should be thankful for. Happiness it's like a chemical feeling within the body. And I think ultimately happiness is something that you can flow in and out of. And I know people say happiness is a choice. I think we think of it more as a feeling and emotion generated by other things that you do. And so I think being grateful truly is a choice. That is a mindset that you can hold. Whereas happiness is a byproduct of how you're living your life and different actions that you take, gratitude being one of them. And so you draw that distinction. And I think, Aaron, the first thing I would think about is, okay, you're doing gratitude, you're practicing gratitude, and that is an important practice to have in your life, because everything that you achieve, everything that you do, everything that you work on in the presence of gratitude, you're more likely going to be happy if you have that gratitude. But the fact that you don't have happiness or you're struggling to achieve it should suggest to you that there are other parts of your life that you need to focus on in tandem with gratitude. And so, thinking about it high level, things like, are you living in line with your values? Do you spend time with people that share those values? Are you getting a lot out of the relationships that you have in your life? Are you working on things that you want to be spending your time on? Are you pursuing business opportunities? Are you pursuing personal development opportunities that are giving you a reason to get out of bed excited in the morning? And if you aren't in pursuit of those things in tandem with having gratitude, you're still going to have gaps in your life. You can't just wake up every morning and say, I am grateful to be here and I want nothing else. Just being happy to be here oftentimes isn't going to be enough to be in pursuit of happiness and have happiness in your life. And so,
yeah, I like what you said about, are you pursuing these things? Because it's very possible to be grateful and not be, you can be grateful for your situation today, but not be pursuing something. And that's great. But I talk about this all the time. A lot of times unhappiness comes from the fact that deep down, you are not pursuing the things that you want to do or can do. And you can be grateful for having running water, having a meal, having a house, having a family, but you could still be unhappy because you could be not living up to your potential. You could be not going after the things that you dream about. You could be suppressing yourself and falling victim to your limiting beliefs. And that is something that of course is going to make you unhappy. So the two of those can exist at the same time. And I just think it's important to point out, the difference in them. Sorry if you heard the dog bark, but
this actually have a third podcast member, Jax, Josh's dog. I think an important general concept, something that we've come across in mindset, is holding paradoxes in your head, holding two conflicting ideas in your head and recognizing that they can both be true. Like, all of life happens on a continuum, and moving away from a situation where you say things are black and white is an important step in freeing your mind of undue constraint. And so I'll unpack that a little bit. The belief that if you have gratitude, you also need to be happy is a belief that you could hold. On the flip side of that, the paradox would be, well, you can be grateful for what you have and not be happy, and recognize that that is okay. And that like, hypothetically, a lot of the way people define these things in the classic sense of gratitude and happiness, that you should have both. But in pursuit of being a mindset mogul, you shouldn't necessarily be happy if you are not pursuing the fullest version of yourself. But that doesn't mean you get to wake up every morning and not be grateful for what you have. And so recognizing that you can cleanly hold those two things in your head, I am grateful, but I am not always happy. Recognize that that's okay. Take the pressure off, but also use it as a signal that I need to be pursuing my potential every day. And that's probably what's standing between you and happiness.
When I think of, like, I'm trying to think of a personal example, Aaron, because I feel like I felt the same way many times. And I feel like when I'm feeling very unhappy, I use gratitude as a tool to have perspective and bring awareness to the things that I'm unhappy about. So, for example, if I wake up in the morning and I'm just down, I'm depressed, I don't feel like, my normal energy, whatever, I'll go to gratitude and I'll think about all the things I'm grateful for. I'll put myself in that state of mind where I'm very appreciative of my life. And once I do that, I start to unpack the reasons why I'm unhappy. It's almost like using that tool of gratitude gives me clarity on what's causing me to feel unhappy in the first place. And maybe you've experienced that since you've said you've been practicing gratitude very consistently for months. Maybe you agree and have clarity when you are practicing gratitude. But I know for me, when I'm in one of those very unhappy states and I go to gratitude, it gives me clarity on, okay, well, I'm actually feeling this unhappiness because for the last 2 weeks, I've eaten like shit. I've drinking alcohol. I haven't been on top of my goals for work. Like, it gives me clarity on some of the reasons why I may be feeling unhappy. Or it could be something super deep down. Like, I'm unhappy in my career. I'm unhappy in my relationship. Not things that I'm currently going through. I'm just saying it could be something deep down that you gain clarity on when you start to go to gratitude in those moments of unhappiness.
Gratitude is like a bulldozer that clears out all the schmutz that's in your mind that's keeping you from clarity. And once you bulldoze and recognize, here are the things that I'm grateful for, or that it gives you perspective, I think it opens up your mind to find all the things that you just said on, okay, what are the things in my life that, yeah, it adds a sense of clarity. And I think that's an important concept. I think another thing I want to touch on just happiness in general and being grateful in general is gratitude should not lead to complacency. If you're pursuing hard things in your life, or you're in a state that you held a high expectation for yourself, you're not going to be happy all of the time. Like, happiness is fickle. I think not being happy can be driven in a couple ways. One is what we just talked about, where you're not happy because you're not fulfilling your potential. Two is you're pursuing really hard things, and in the process of doing so, you're not always happy. Like, if you're starting a startup and it's going to be a 10-year journey and you got to go battle it out in the competition of the marketplace and you're getting beat up every day, you're not always going to be happy. That shit is going to be really hard. And when stuff is really hard, you're not always going to be happy. And that's okay. And that's part of holding those conflicting ideas in your head. You can be grateful for the opportunity to run the startup, but not be happy all the time running it because it is hard. Same thing goes for maintaining relationships. People in your family, as example, you identify, I have a value that I want to maintain relationships in my family. They live far away from me. They're sometimes difficult people to get along with, but I value maintaining that relationship over a long period of time. That's going to be hard, and it's not always going to make you happy. But the pursuit of that over the long term is something that falls in line with what you want to do. You'll get long-term fulfillment from it. And so I think that's actually a third distinction, is fulfillment and happiness are not the same thing. And so you should be pursuing fulfillment and not necessarily happiness. That happiness is a general byproduct. And on the long term, you will be happier for finding that fulfillment. But in the process of getting it, you're going to be unhappy sometimes because it means you were pursuing hard things. And when things are hard, you're not always happy. But you should always be grateful during that process to keep perspective and have respect for the position that you're in. Because then when you get to the end of the road and you have that gratitude and you've accomplished the thing, you're in a world of abundance that you couldn't otherwise imagine.
That's why when I said, when we checked into the episode, I'm grateful for having the mindset that I have right now. I think about that all the time in the morning because I know that the day is going to be hard. I know that it's going to be filled with a bunch of stuff that I don't want to do that may make me unhappy. But I'm grateful to have the mindset to push me through those things when in previous times, maybe I would have just said, fuck it and quit. So being grateful for having the mindset to actually push through, being grateful for the process in general of what you're going through. Like, part of one of the best things about achieving success is the process that you went through to achieve it. Probably the best thing actually is that, because the process is where you gain all of the knowledge, all of the experience, all of the fulfillment that comes with success. It's a lot of, in my opinion, it's a lot of reason why people who, win the lottery lose all their money or spend all their money within a year or 2 years of winning the lottery, because they never actually went through the process to earn that money, and they didn't feel the feelings that it would take, that you would have gained from the process of feeling that feeling. And all of a sudden their identity just brings them back down to the level that they were at before they won the lottery, because their identity never changed in the process of achieving that wealth, like it would have if they started a business, ran it for 10 years, went through a 10-year process where they grew in all facets of their life and literally became a different person and a different identity throughout that process. So I was even talking about this with Brad right before we jumped on here. We're like, the podcast is starting to grow a little bit, using Mindset Mogul as an example. The podcast is starting to grow a little bit. It's cool to start seeing numbers increase, but I am just grateful for the process right now. And like, we'll get one comment or we'll get, 1,000 views on a video and we'll send it to each other and be like, this is awesome. Like celebrating triple digit views or 1,000 views. And I'm very grateful for that now. And in turn, when we blow up inevitably, because we will, I'll be even more grateful for that moment when it happens because I've learned to appreciate this. And going even further, we were saying, well, we could do this for even if it takes us 5 years, 10 years before we blow up and start getting, a huge viewership. It doesn't even matter because in that process, we are going to find a ton of fulfillment. We're seeking something that is meaningful, and that alone is something to be grateful for and provides happiness when you are seeking something meaningful that provides fulfillment. So sorry, I just rambled here, but I know the in-person doesn't stop the rambling.
Oh, dude, I thought what you just said was fantastic. I think if we'll bring it back to Aaron's question. I think, so unpacking or summarizing some of the topics that we hit on today is, one, gratitude and happiness are different things. Two, it's okay to be unhappy. You should spend some time using the clarity that you get from gratitude to figure out what is driving that unhappiness. Is it a function of not pursuing the right things or not pursuing something at all? Is it a function of you actually are doing hard things every day, but you should level set with yourself that because you're in pursuit of those hard things, you're not always going to be happy? And I think if that's the case, falling in love with the process and understanding that it being hard is actually the process to go achieve the identity of the person that you want to be, which is pretty much the point of doing anything and everything in the first place. Are you living in accordance with your values? Are you spending time with the people that you want to? Ask yourself those questions and try and find the root cause of why I'm not happy. But recognize in all this that happiness is a byproduct. And the process of becoming the person that you want to be, taking those actions, and being grateful throughout all of it, those are the things that will lead to long-term fulfillment. And ultimately, happiness will trail that as a byproduct of doing that.
I think that was perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
We're perfect. It's
Yeah, well, listen, I think that was great. Getting used to this in-person pod is interesting for the first time, but I think that was cool. Anything else you want to add before we end it?
No, I think this is good. We didn't prepare an audience exercise, but I'm thinking of one off the top of my head. I think as an audience member, use Aaron's question to guide your own thought for the next week. And I'd say first things first, make sure you do a gratitude practice every morning. Wake up, do one thing, say one thing to yourself say one thing to yourself that you're grateful for. Do that for a week and see how you're feeling and evaluate whether you're happy or unhappy, but use that week of gratitude to develop clarity for your mind, gain perspective. And then after that week, evaluate where your happiness is at. And then you can then start to ask yourself the questions of what is or isn't making me happy in my life. And then you can start to build a plan for pursuing things that on the long term will make you happy, which is really a function of you having fulfillment.
That was amazing. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave a comment with your own question if you would like that answered, or you can email that into support@mindsetmogul.com. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, please leave us a review there and follow us. That would really, really be appreciated. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.